If you're watching this, there's a decent chance you've had a moment you still replay. Someone leaned back. They offered you gum when you didn't ask. They turned their face slightly when you spoke, or worse. They didn't do anything at all, and you spent the rest of the day wondering. And here's the part that messes with your head. You can't reliably smell your own breath. So you don't get certainty, you get guesswork. And when the problem is invisible, your brain fills in the blanks with shame. If you've been dealing with bad breath for a while and you keep doing more, brushing harder, rinsing stronger, buying whatever promises freshness, the problem isn't effort, it's direction. Chronic bad breath doesn't come from dirty teeth. It comes from a mouth environment that keeps producing odor even when you clean. You've been aiming all that energy at the wrong target. And that's why it keeps coming back. Because halitosis isn't a brushing problem. It's not even mainly a dirty teeth problem. It's a mouth environment problem. And if you don't change the environment, you can brush like a saint and still lose. Let me make this personal in a way people don't like to admit out loud. Bad breath doesn't just affect your mouth, it changes your behavior. You stand a little farther away. You talk less in close spaces. You angle your head when you speak. You avoid morning meetings. You avoid dates. You avoid leaning in for photos. You start offering other people gum first, like you're being nice, when really you're trying to create cover. That's not drama, that's strategy, and it's exhausting. If this feels uncomfortably familiar, stay with me. Because the part most people never explain is why this keeps happening even when you're doing everything right. And it's also why this topic hits harder than cavities. Because with cavities, you have pain, you have x rays, you have proof. With bad breath, you have doubt. And doubt makes people spiral. So here's twist number one, and I need you to actually hear it. The people who suffer with chronic halitosis the longest are usually the ones who care the most. They brush twice a day, they floss, they rinse, they try the tongue brush, they try the zinc drops, they buy the expensive mouthwash. They panic clean before social situations. They do everything right. And when it doesn't work, they don't assume the advice is incomplete. They assume they are failing. That's the trap. I call it the freshness trap. You keep chasing that first 5 minutes after you rinse, when your mouth feels icy and clean, and you mistake that sensation for progress. So you double down, stronger rinse, more often, more gum, more mints. You create a constant freshness routine that feels productive. But what if that routine is the exact thing keeping the environment broken? Because a lot of the most common fresh breath habits do two things that are perfect for halitosis. They dry the mouth, and they disrupt the mouth's ability to regulate itself. And once you understand what halitosis actually is, that stops being confusing. Here's what most people were never told. The smell is not the food you ate lingering between your teeth. It's gas, real gas. Odor causing bacteria, especially the ones that thrive when oxygen is low, break down proteins and release sulfur gases. Those gases are what you're smelling. And the most important part is where those bacteria live. They don't live on the shiny front surfaces you brush beautifully. They live where most people barely clean and where oxygen is lower. The back of the tongue, deep grooves on the tongue surface, under the gum line if there's inflammation, and sometimes in tonsil crypts if you're prone to tonsil stones. That's why you can leave a dental cleaning feeling hopeful and still have the problem later that day. I see this all the time. The cleaning can be perfect, and the odor system can still be intact. Now, twist number two, and this one makes people mad because it's so simple. Your breath is not controlled by how clean you are. It's controlled by how well your mouth is regulating. And the regulator is saliva, not mouthwash, not toothpaste. Saliva. Saliva is not just water, it's your mouth's built in rinse cycle. It dilutes sulfur gases as they form. It helps neutralize them. It keeps oxygen moving through tissues. It prevents the mouth from staying in that low oxygen, low clearance state where odor builds. So if your saliva is low, or your mouth is staying dry and low oxygen for chunks of the day, you will keep producing odor no matter how aggressively you brush. Most people miss this part because it doesn't feel dramatic, but it's where the pattern quietly locks in. And the cruel part is, Most people with low saliva don't feel like they have dry mouth. They're not parched. They're not uncomfortable. Nothing feels urgent. It shows up quietly. You wake up with a sticky tongue. You sip water without thinking about it. Your lips feel dry by midday. Morning breath doesn't fully clear. The tongue coating never really goes away. Your mouth starts feeling fuzzy as the day goes on. That's not random. That's the environment shifting. If you're using an alcohol-based mouthwash daily for freshness, you may be feeding the cycle you're trying to escape. It gives you a strong sensation, but it can dry tissues, reduce saliva reflexes, and push the mouth deeper into the exact state sulfur bacteria love. So, what do you do at home if you want this to actually change? Not for 10 minutes, but for real. You stop trying to overpower the smell and you start resetting the environment. Here's the part that surprises people. The fix is less about adding products and more about removing the conditions that keep sulfur gas production stable. First, you deal with the real headquarters, the back of the tongue. If you do nothing else, stop treating your tongue like an afterthought. The goal isn't to scrub your tongue until it's raw. That back third is sensitive, and over-scrubbing can irritate and make things worse. You want consistent, gentle disruption of that coating. A tongue scraper can help, or a soft brush used deliberately on the back third once a day. If you gag easily, start farther forward and work back over time. The point is not perfection. The point is changing the habitat. Second, you stop living in a dry mouth without realizing it. If you're a coffee sipper, a sparkling water sipper, a flavored water sipper, a just one more sip person, you're constantly stimulating the mouth without allowing recovery, and you're often dehydrating yourself slowly in the background. Make your hydration boring again. Water, regular sips, especially earlier in the day, not only when you eat. And if you take medications that dry the mouth, blood pressure meds, antidepressants, allergy meds, this isn't about blame. It's about recognizing the environment you're working with, because you need more support than someone with normal saliva flow. Third, you fix the part nobody wants to talk about, how you breathe. If you mouth breathe during sleep, even occasionally, you wake up in a low saliva, low oxygen mouth every morning. That's why some people can brush, rinse, scrape, do everything, and still start the day already behind. If you wake up with a dry throat, dry lips, or you're always thirsty in the morning, you don't need a stronger mouthwash. You need to ask why your mouth is drying out overnight. Nasal congestion, allergies, a deviated septum, sleep disordered breathing, those can all push mouth breathing, even without full sleep apnea. And you don't have to feel like a mouth breather for it to matter. If this is already clicking for you, if you're realizing, wait, this explains my pattern, then you're exactly who I make these videos for. Subscribe if you want the practical, non-embarrassing truth about what's happening in your mouth so you're not stuck guessing and buying random stuff. Now let's finish the part you actually came for, how to reset it at home. The fourth piece is timing, and this is where a lot of healthy people get sabotaged. If your mouth never gets a break, it never gets a reset. Constant snacking, constant sipping, constant gum, constant mints. Those keep your mouth in a low-grade processing mode. Odor doesn't always spike immediately after eating. It often builds later, quietly, as bacteria keep metabolizing. So instead of grazing all day, give your mouth actual recovery windows. Eat, then let your mouth do its job. That doesn't mean starving. It means fewer all-day mouth events. And this is where gum quietly backfires for some people. You chew it because you think you're helping, but instead, your mouth starts smelling worse. That's not random. Some gums are designed to mask odor, not reset the environment. Others dry the mouth after the initial saliva burst. And for some people, chewing actually increases mouth breathing or tissue irritation, which lowers oxygen and makes sulfur production easier. That's why the goal isn't chew forever. The goal is restoring saliva without creating another loop that keeps the system stuck. Now here's the payoff. This is the part that changes how you feel about yourself. If halitosis was a cleanliness problem, brushing harder would have fixed it years ago. The fact that it didn't is not proof that you're dirty, lazy, or broken. It's proof you were pulling a lever that wasn't connected to the mechanism. Brushing is for teeth. Breath is mostly about environment, tongue habitat, saliva flow, oxygen, and recovery timing. And when you change those conditions, the emotional weight starts to lift first. You stop monitoring yourself every minute. You stop doing the mental math in conversations. You stop carrying the fear of being found out. That relief is real. And it's also the best sign you're actually fixing the right system. Now, I'm going to add one important line so you don't waste months on the wrong path. If you do all of this consistently and nothing changes, that doesn't mean you failed or that this was wrong. It means the source may be outside the mouth. But the point of this video is that most people never even get to step one correctly. They stay trapped in freshness, self-blame, and constant micromanagement. So here's the honest at-home goal. Stop chasing freshness and start restoring regulation. Make the tongue a priority. Protect saliva. Stop drying the mouth with strong products that feel effective. Give your mouth recovery windows. Fix mouth breathing patterns if they're there. Do that, and you're no longer guessing. You're changing the conditions that make halitosis stable. And that's why halitosis isn't a brushing problem. It's an environment problem, and environments can be changed.